Every day the Lord keep on telling me this. Live joyfully in your now. Because let me tell you, some of you say, December, I will do this. Do you notice that sometimes when you say, I will do it next year, let me say, you are in June, you say, I will do it in December. You have a plan, do something on December. Before you watch, you're already in December. And sometimes, what you were thinking you will get, you don't get it. So meaning you were sad all throughout those times till you got there. Start rejoicing now. I told somebody, she was crying, she was from the UK. She said, I want to marry. I said, what if it's not the will of God for you to marry? Live joyfully. Don't be sad because you are alone. How long will you continue being in pain? I know the thought I think towards you. Being in marriage and crying that you must be married, if it is not the will of God, it is the most rough place to be. Ask those that have forced themselves into marriage, they will tell you. Ask those that have forced themselves into different cities, they will tell you. Make choices that God was not in the plan. When God orchestrated that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, should possess all the earth, God was speaking through the prophet Jeremiah. But in Jerusalem, the king Zedekiah said, no, that he will not give up. He will not surrender to Nebuchadnezzar. They even arrested Jeremiah for prophesying such word. And one day, the king Zedekiah called Jeremiah privately. He said, tell me the truth. What should I do? Jeremiah said, hand over to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. If you hand over to him, this land will be secured. They will not carry you captive to Babylon. Your children will be secured. Your family will be secured. But he said, no, if I submit to Babylon, the Jewish people, they will stone me to death. So he refused to follow that will of God. And he followed his own will. He wanted to fight. He wanted to fight Nebuchadnezzar. Now, because of he refused to obey God's will, he was captured and they removed his 2 eyes. They chained him with bronze. They killed all his sons in his presence. That is why I said the most dangerous place to be is outside God's will for you. Outside God's will is like the prodigal son leaving his father's house. And one day the Bible says he came back to himself. He said, I will return to the will of my father. May we know the will of God for us and be ready to follow his will for us. Jesus said, I have not come to do my own things, but I came to do the will of my father. You were born by the will of God. So you should live by the will of God. Your existence is supposed to be by the will of God. Everything you are doing, the will of God. Father, let your will be done. Now the Lord said to me, anybody that is not following my will is like someone that is existing in this earth before I said, let there be light. God's will is the light to your path. God's will is the road already prepared before you were created. Imagine this world, God have not said let there be light. When the whole earth was covered with flood, if you find that your life is in darkness, you are in confusion, you are outside God's will. That's why God's will is the light of the world. He is what separated the water and the land. God's will is what brought the star, the moon, and placed everything, the trees. So moving outside God's will is like you are trying to create your own path in darkness. Do you know how terrible it is to walk in a place you don't know in darkness? Do you know how terrible it is to drive a car without an headlamp in a road you don't know in darkness? Do you know what it means for you to use your car to be traveling to a place you don't know without a GPS? That is how it is to walk outside God's will. You find out that it doesn't matter how much you put in the tank of your car. You keep on driving because you don't know the address. You don't know where you are going. You can't see the road clearly. Living your life outside God's will is like driving a car going to an address that you don't know. Living outside God's will is like Apostle Paul that was killing believers in Acts 9. And one day, Jesus encountered him. First of all, he took a letter. That letter was leading him to Damascus to go and destroy. And he got an encounter with God. And God said, this is not my plan for you. This is not my thought towards you. This is not my will for you. And he asked the Lord, what should I do? That should be your question before you enter next year. Don't tell God what you want. Ask him what he wants. Lord, I've been doing what I want like Apostle Paul. He willingly, by his will, went to take letter and said, I want to go and look for anybody that is calling this name Jesus. I want to arrest them. But that was not his destiny. Some of you, that letter is your certificate, your school certificate. Some of you, that letter is your marriage certificate. You say, I must have marriage certificate. I don't know the letter the devil have given to you. You see, that letter was what was giving him direction. Some of us, if we are not married, is what is giving our life. We need that marriage certificate. You say, I just want to be married. That's the letter that is leading you astray. You can see some people be with rough people in a relationship, be drunkard in a relationship. That person is not a Christian just because they want to have the name that I am married. That's the letter, like Paul, that is leading you astray. So God is interfering in your life today.